All right, so we are just hours away from the next hearing of the January 6th committee. This afternoon, the panel will zero in on the role extremist groups played on that day. CBS News has learned the committee will hear from a rioter who pled guilty to illegally entering the Capitol and the former spokesperson for a self-appointed militia. Nikole Killion is following all of this for us. Nikole, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Vlad and Anne-Marie. And the committee hasn't officially named the witnesses that will be testifying today due to security concerns, but it does intend to examine the role of extremist groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers to determine whether or not there was a connection with the Trump White House.
They came with explosives, they came armed, they came with maps of the Capitol, and with plans that extended beyond just a peaceful protest.
Two sources with knowledge of the hearing tell CBS News former Oath Keeper spokesman Jason Van Tatenhove will address the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack. He met with them in March and is expected to discuss his relationship with leader Stewart Rhodes, who is jailed awaiting trial on seditious conspiracy charges. He has pleaded not guilty.
We got footage all over the place on the Capitol.
The committee will also hear from Stephen Ayers, an Ohio man who attended the Stop the Steal rally and pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct after converging on the Capitol. According to court documents, he suggested civil war will ensue if former President Trump was denied the presidency, and cited this December 19th tweet from the former president urging supporters to come to Washington. Be there, it will be wild.
You'll see the evidence that we have of how the president's tweet in the wee hours of December 19th activated the groups, and how the members of Congress amplified that tweet, and the tragic end result was January 6th.
The tweet followed a meeting Trump had with outside advisors to discuss seizing voting machines and appointing a special counsel to investigate election fraud. The House panel plans to highlight possible links between some of Trump's associates, like former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and Roger Stone, and the violent extremists.
But to the extent there was any other direct involvement with these groups, it's really important, because the purpose of these hearings, we have to remember, is for Congress to write laws to prevent this kind of violence from occurring in the future.
Committee members say it's also possible that we could see new video testimony from former White House counsel Pat Cipollone. You may recall that he met with the panel last Friday for about 8 hours, and they say he corroborated the accounts of other witnesses, including former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson. Vlad and Marie.
All right, Nikole, stand by. Let's also bring in CBS News Chief National Affairs and Justice Correspondent Jeff Pegues. So while we have the both of you, Jeff, let me begin with you. Explain the significance of the two witnesses we'll hear from today.
Well, investigators with this January 6th Select Committee, they're trying to establish for the public ties between Trump-connected people in the Trump universe and members of these extremist groups, whether it's the Oath Keepers or the Proud Boys. So that is the significance of this hearing. And as Nicole's reporting outlined, these are groups that were armed that day. I witnessed that being at the ellipse where President Trump made his speech, and there were members of these militias there, as well as there at the Capitol, as these militias descended on the Capitol complex. And so investigators with this committee, they want to lay out for the viewing audience these ties, and there are some ties there. Some of it rather, not as in terms of legally speaking, perhaps not as tight as some of these investigators and prosecutors might want if you were prosecuting a legal case. But what we're seeing from this congressional panel, this is not a legal case. This is the type of case that could lead to charges. However, what they are trying to do, the congressional members of this panel, is lay out the case for the public. And what they want to establish are these ties between these extremist groups.
All right, Nikole, could we possibly hear from Pat Cipollone? We know he went in, he did some videotape testimony. What are the odds of us hearing some of that?
Yeah, well, certainly there's a lot of anticipation for that testimony. And so committee members have indicated that they do intend to put that out and roll it out at some point as soon as today, potentially, because, again, you had Pat Cipollone meeting with the committee for some 8 hours last week. He was cooperative, answered the committee's questions, and several committee members have since said that he did provide some very valuable testimony, including new relevant information that they believe will show and reflect the former president's dereliction of duty. So they do want to get that material out there as soon as they can. And again, possible we could see that as soon as today.
Jeff, let me ask you, what's going on with Steve Bannon? Where do things stand?
That's a very good question.
I mean, it really is bonkers.
Like, that was such a general, the opening question was so general.
I know.
What is going on
I know,
with Steve Bannon?
because, you know, he's not going to testify. He is going to testify. He wants to be public. They don't want it to be public. He's got his
court date coming up.
The judge says he has to be there. I mean, I don't want to step on your reporting. You know more than I do.
I mean, listen, you just laid it out there, and the way you characterized it is just how confusing his case is if you're not a prosecutor or have a law degree. But I'm going to boil it down for you. What he did, or his defense attorney did, was go to court. What they're trying to do, the strategy is to delay the start of his trial. It's supposed to start next Monday, July 18th. And so they went to court trying to delay the start of the trial, trying to say, oh, okay, well, now we will adhere to this congressional subpoena. We are willing to testify before the January 6th committee. Of course, Bannon is accused of contempt of Congress, and he was brought up on charges. He's already been in court. And as you know, he's quite the showman. And so this is perhaps, according to his critics, another Steve Bannon show. But the bottom line is he's trying to delay the start of the trial. They are trying to, or they were trying to, get the judge to acknowledge some of their defense strategy, which he threw it all out. He threw it all out. And so clearly Steve Bannon's defense is frustrated. This trial is going to move forward, and we're hearing that it's going to move forward at a rather quick pace, because prosecutors say, or they have indicated, they only need 1 day to present their case against Steve Bannon. Now, Bannon's defense attorneys were saying, oh, it's going to take several days for us to present our defense. Well, probably not anymore, given that this judge yesterday threw out a lot of their defense.
Nikole, the committee has had 6 hearings so far. Today's going to be the 7th. I thought that they initially said there was only going to be 7 hearings, but I don't think it's staying that way at all. How have things unfolded? Does the committee believe it's really making its case for the public? And can we expect more than 7 hearings?
Oh, well, look, things have been fluctuating as the committee gets new information. And, you know, at the outset this summer, they said it was possible there could be 8 or 9. And so, you know, we are kind of starting to approach that. But look, I mean, as Jeff also pointed out, this really is about making the case to the American public as it reveals what it has uncovered and what it has learned through the course of this investigation, which has almost reached the year mark. And so that is why you have seen the committee kind of take this very methodical approach with each hearing, kind of focused and drilling down on specific themes to kind of make this digestible. I mean, keep in mind that this committee has obtained interviews with more than 1,000 witnesses. They have hundreds of thousands of pages of documents that they have been able to obtain. And so, you know, for those of us who are journalists, you know, when you get a lot of information, you know, in our case, we've got to boil it down to just a few minutes to help the public understand what's happening. And so the same way, the committee is trying to take all of this massive information that it has uncovered and really try to boil it down into these digestible, you know, roughly 2-hour hearings to help the public understand and follow along and try to connect the dots with what has been happening. And so you saw them at the very outset, you know, kind of lay out their general, you know, thesis that they believe that the former president does have some culpability in terms of January 6th through his actions leading up to that. So whether that was this pressure campaign that we saw that one hearing focused on involving the former vice president, or on state and local election officials, or on the Justice Department, and now you see them working up towards, when all of those options were exhausted, you had the former president putting out this tweet about a month before January 6th saying, "Come to Washington, it will be wild," and that was really, in the view of the committee, a siren call to some of these extremist groups. And so that is now the portion of the narrative that the committee is laying out today. The big question, though, as it has been since this committee got underway, is whether or not it will change minds, or whether or not the public's views are already baked in.
Nikole, Jeff, thank you so much.